The sun was sinking behind the jagged cliffs of Maui, painting the sky in bruised purples and fiery oranges. But inside the lavish beachfront villa, Alexander Prescott felt colder than the wind whipping across the shoreline. Despite owning more money than most could dream of, he had never felt less wealthy. The halls of his vacation home were silent except for the occasional creak of the floorboards, reminders that even in paradise, loneliness has a sound. Alexander, a billionaire known for his business acumen and ruthless deals, had mastered every boardroom except the one that mattered most, his own heart. For years he had lived in a world of contracts, numbers, and endless expectations, forgetting what it meant to simply be known, to be loved. Tonight, however, a blind date awaited him. A suggestion from a friend who insisted that sometimes even the most meticulous men need a spark of chaos. Before he could rise from the balcony and greet his anxiety, Alexander's mind spiraled into memories of empty hotel rooms, missed family dinners, and the ghost of a laughter he once thought permanent. But the idea of connecting with someone who didn't know his fortune, his fame, or his flaws was strangely tempting. He ran a hand over his sharp jawline and whispered to himself, as if the wind could hear, that maybe, just maybe, tonight could be different. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the quiet miracles that life sometimes hides in plain sight, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel, because this story proves they really do exist. When he arrived at the small candlelit restaurant perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, Alexander immediately felt the familiar rush of anxiety that came with vulnerability. His eyes scanned the softly lit tables, searching for a stranger who could befriend him without pretense, without ulterior motive. And then he saw her. It was as if the world had stopped, sitting there with her hands folded. Neatly on the table, her dark curls catching the flickering candlelight, was someone Alexander had thought he would never see again. Margaret Hayes. Years ago, she had been a force of warmth in his life, a bright, unassuming woman who had treated him like a person, not a business empire. They had met in a small coffee shop in Boston when Alexander had still been climbing the ladder and not drowning in it. She had made him laugh, truly laugh, and for a moment, he had almost believed in a life beyond spreadsheets and boardrooms. But life had a cruel way of tearing people apart. A job offer across the country, a misunderstanding, a prideful decision, and suddenly she was gone, leaving behind a void that Alexander had tried and failed to fill with money and power. He froze in place, his chair scraping softly against the wooden floor, a sound that seemed deafening in the quiet. Margaret's head lifted, her eyes meeting his, and recognition flickered across her face before settling into cautious curiosity. Alexander could feel the weight of years pressing down on him, the regrets that no bank account could erase. He had planned to charm a stranger, but destiny had other ideas. The first moments of their conversation were fragile, like porcelain teetering on the edge of a shelf. He stumbled over words he hadn't used in years, words that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with his heart. Margaret smiled, and Alexander felt something he hadn't in a long time: hope. Not the kind manufactured by wealth or ambition, but the raw, trembling hope that comes when a second chance appears unexpectedly. As the evening unfolded, the ocean below them roared like applause, and the wind carried whispers of memory and longing. They spoke of small things at first: books, favorite movies, the ridiculous joys of childhood. Then, cautiously, they moved into heavier territory, the moments that had driven them apart years ago. Alexander confessed his regrets with a humility that surprised even him, admitting mistakes he had once justified with pride. Margaret listened without interruption, her eyes steady and warm, offering a forgiveness that had the power to mend old wounds. It wasn't easy. There were tears, quick gulps of air to steady themselves, and laughter that erupted when least expected. Alexander felt the years of isolation begin to melt away, replaced by the fragile, delicate thrill of being understood again. He realized that love, true love, was not about grand gestures or gifts, but about being seen and accepted for exactly who you were. And in Margaret's eyes, he was more than a billionaire. He was Alexander, the man he had always wanted to be. As dessert arrived, a simple chocolate tart and vanilla creme brulee, Alexander felt a surge of gratitude so deep it almost brought him to his knees. The world outside, with its noise and chaos, seemed distant, as if this little restaurant on the edge of the world existed solely for their reunion. He wanted to freeze this moment, hold it like a fragile glass sculpture in his hands, and never let it slip away. He realized that for all the fortunes he had amassed, none compared to the richness of this evening, this connection, this second chance. Margaret reached across the table, her hand brushing his, and Alexander's heart stuttered in a way it hadn't in years. No grand promises were made, no declarations of forever were uttered. Yet, in that gentle touch there was an unspoken understanding. Love, when it returns, doesn't always roar, it whispers, steady and unwavering, and sometimes that whisper is enough to heal what was once broken. By the time they left the restaurant, the night sky was strewn with stars, reflections dancing on the water like tiny miracles. Alexander walked beside Margaret, feeling lighter than he had in decades. The city lights of the distant shore twinkled like coins, but now, for the first time, he cared more about the woman beside him than the wealth behind him. The journey back to his villa was quiet, but in that silence, he discovered a symphony of possibilities. Alexander knew that their reunion was just the beginning. He had learned that life's most valuable gifts were not in contracts or investments, but in moments of vulnerability and courage. He had learned that a blind date could sometimes be fate in disguise, a gentle nudge from the universe to remind him that it's never too late to love, to forgive, to hope. And he had learned that some people, some loves, are worth more than all the billions in the world. As they stood on his balcony, watching the moon rise over the ocean, Alexander took Margaret's hand once more. He no longer feared the emptiness that had haunted him for so long, because he finally understood that true wealth was measured not in dollars, but in hearts touched, connections restored, and love reclaimed. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and the quiet miracles that life offers, please comment below, share your thoughts, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And before you go, leave a comment telling us the moment you believe love found you when you least expected it. It might inspire someone else today. That night, Alexander slept not just in his villa, but in the warmth of a newfound hope, knowing that life had a way of returning the very thing he had thought lost forever, the chance to be truly seen, truly loved, and finally, truly happy.